Welcome to Brave Together Parenting, an empowering and truly helpful podcast for the parents of children with disabilities and all unique needs. I never said, I was a caregiver to my mom. I don't think I've ever said that. I never realized, I was a caregiver before I was a caregiver to Ryan. And I also never really thought about that that's subconsciously also part of the origin story, the genesis of We Are Brave Together. Hello, brave friends. Welcome to Ask Us Anything. I'm Jessica Patay, your host of Brave Together Parenting Podcast, and I'm joined by two fantastic fellow Brave Mom co-hosts to help answer your questions.
Hi, I'm Susanna Peace Lovell. I'm an author, a certified life coach and soul care coach, and an advocate for the health and wellness of disability families everywhere.
Hi, I'm Dr. Zoe, a licensed psychotherapist, writer, speaker, author, and complex shame expert.
We are gathered here to share our experiences,
share our wisdom,
and answer your questions.
Have a caregiving question? Find the link in the show notes to leave us your message.
May you feel seen and heard and not alone.
Ask us anything. Hi, good morning. Guess who? It's Jessica. Today would have been my mom's 90th birthday, and my heart is a little bit tender. She's been gone for 20 years. She got lung cancer in June of 2004, and we lost her by September. It was so fast, so intense, and we took care of her in our home that summer with the help of my sisters and hospice. And so it just got me thinking, I'd love to hear your wisdom and encouragement for many of the moms in our community who are mothering without mothers. And without mothers could also be because they don't have relationships with their mothers, or their mothers are not hands-on and not helpful. So what if we did an episode on this? Thanks. Hi, Zoe. Hi, Susanna. Welcome back.
Hi, ladies.
Hello, you two.
So good to see you.
Favorite part of the day, always.
Me too. It's been a while since we've been together.
It has.
So it's really good to see you both. And thank you for being open to this topic and for something that was so tender on my heart. So I really look forward to diving in with both of you on this. But before we begin, are you surviving this week or are you thriving this week?
You know, I feel like I'm both surviving and thriving in different ways. My daughter Sully is in a treatment center right now, and with her not being here in our home, it's so different, and it's giving me space to do so many things that I've needed to tackle and have put off while we've been kind of putting out fires with her. So in that way, I'm thriving, I'm productive, I'm getting so much done, I'm spending really good bonding time with my 11-year-old who sometimes gets the short end of the stick, with an older sister with special needs. So I'm thriving. The surviving part is not knowing what's next with Sully and trying to figure that out. And we're dealing with the school system and all of that kind of fight just to advocate for my child is definitely, that puts me in survival mode.
That's so understandable.
And I love the both and the and both. That is often the case. Because if we really think about it, like, what is my real, most authentic answer right now? And I would have to say, too, Zoe, same for me. I feel like it has been a survival week in many ways. And I feel like I'm also sort of calm and regulated in my own body, which has been sort of up and down the last couple of months. And so that, to me, I feel great physically and emotionally right now. But the surviving part of this week was that Arizona school just kept getting threats upon threats upon threats, just over and over and over every day. Police have been on campus, like literally blockading all entrances because there were some very threatening social media posts about someone wanting to shoot up the school. And, bombing the school. I mean, so much so that the principal has, sent out messages multiple times a day this week. And it's been really challenging with Arizona's anxiety to help her walk through it and, to let her know, like, It's okay to be fearful. And how can we not be paralyzed by the fear? So yeah, so I would say both and, but when mama's in a good place, I can be so much more supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Susanna.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
This country
That's a lot
right now.
Yes.
I know.
How about you, Jessica?
I've been stressed, y'all. I've been stressed. Everything at home is fine. I just have a bunch of things to do work-wise and big projects, and just I'm such a big dreamer for We Are Brave Together and where I want it to go. And it's been 7 wonderful years, and we're kind of out of the baby stage of being a nonprofit organization. And we need to hire staff and we need to fundraise for that. But then it's this weird thing in the nonprofit world that you're not supposed to show or have in your budget so many people that work for a nonprofit. It makes no sense because people are supposed to work for free?
Right.
Really? People are supposed to work for free. And there are things that I would love to have off my plate so that I could do more fundraising, but then I need staff to do that. So it's just, it's growing pains. It's good. And I'm grateful for my board and the team that I have. And we've got a bunch of smarty smarts on the board, and we need a couple more board members as well. And our board has been a hands-on board for 7 years, and we'd like to move towards a governing oversight strategic board. But then we kind of need staff in order to be able to do that. So it just, it's a good stress, but it's woken me up at night.
Definitely growing pains, and that conundrum between we got to grow, we need to grow, we are growing, but we need help. We need the infrastructure in order to continue to grow.
Yes.
So frustrating.
Yeah. And it'll all get worked out. I've got good people around me advising and an outside consultant and all that. And we'll get there. We will get there, just like we've gotten there with all these other things that we wanted to do. So anyways, thanks.
Well, we're so happy to be by your side, Jessica. Seriously. I'm so excited for, all of the upcoming events. And it's so fun now that Arizona can participate with me. So
yes.
It makes it so delicious.
It does. It does. Let me go ahead and start by sharing my story about my mom and my experience. And I'm going to go back even to before she passed away 20 years ago. When I was 24, so 2 years out of college, I was living at home, but getting ready to move out with 2 friends, actually moved from Los Alamitos to the South Bay. And I had spent the night at a friend's house in Redondo Beach, and it was July 5th because the night before was July 4th. And the fire department called and said they were with my mother, and my mom had a stroke, or like a mini stroke, because she was able to call 911 and they were there and they were able to contact me. And, this is 1994. So this is before cell phones. And so I must have, whenever I spent the night somewhere, I guess I left the phone number with my mom, because how would she have had the number? But I'm glad. And so anyways, that was the start of a lot of health issues for my mom. So she started having these mini strokes. Then she had post-stroke seizures, post-stroke depression. When she had those mini strokes, it came to light that her carotid arteries were clogged. Now, my mom was a smoker for many, many, many years, like decades, since she was a teenager. So that can cause that. She had 2 surgeries, bilateral endarterectomies. So clean out this one, then clean out this one. And then a year later, she had to have it again. This one, cleaned out. So at some point in the first year, she was able to go back to work after the surgeries. But once she started having seizures, she couldn't drive, and then she stopped working. And so her life changed dramatically, and our lives changed dramatically. My sister Jennifer, who was a year older than me, my sister Julie, who's 12 years older, the 3 of us had to jump in like parents. So I became like a parent at 24.
Wow.
And so I lost my mom at 24 as well. So then we went through 10 years of different health issues. My sister Jennifer was my mom's primary caregiver because I moved out that year. The plan was for me to move out that fall of 94, and I did. I didn't stay even though my mom was having health issues. I think that the time that I moved out, she was back at work or was supposed to be back at work. So I think that made me feel better, but I definitely felt guilty. Anyways, I think by the time I was 30 and my sister was getting married, she moved into like a senior building. She was probably the youngest one there. Like, I don't know, I think she was in her early 60s maybe. Anyways, she was able to live in an apartment by herself. She didn't drive, so she did eventually learn how to take the bus to appointments or to church, that kind of stuff. But Jennifer and I would take turns getting her to appointments, doctor appointments and such. And then, of course, I would, see her socially. And I remember in 2004, I picked her up for Mother's Day, and she just looked really thin. Now, my mom always was thin. My mom always had high metabolism. She could kind of eat whatever she wanted, never exercised. But, at some point, she had a little bit of, around the middle. But I remember picking her up, and she just looked so svelte. And I was like, Mom, are you eating? Yeah. I love to cook. Yeah, I'm eating 3 meals a day. She thought she was. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it's time for my sisters and I. We would do this from time to time where she would stay with us or I'd have her come and stay with me and cook for her. And maybe it's time for us all to take turns doing that and like just make sure she's getting her 3 meals a day. And then a few weeks later, it was time for her annual x-ray. The x-ray was suspicious. She had to have a CAT scan. That alerted me. I was like, that doesn't feel right. And my sister took her for the CAT scan, I remember. And then we were waiting for those results, which honestly do not take, you can get those results in 24 hours. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
And then that week, that Friday, my mom called. It was a Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and she was coughing up blood. So I called Chris's brother, who's a doctor, and said, what should I do? And he said, take her to the emergency room. So I did. And we were in the emergency room at Los Alamitos General Hospital. And the ER doc pulled me aside and said she had seen the CAT scan that was just done that week. Actually, it was that week. And she said, it doesn't look good. It looks like cancer. So she told me then, and I was like, devastated. Now, nobody was saying that to my mom yet because they had to do a biopsy to really confirm that. But I knew that night. And what's weird is my mom never coughed up blood again, but that's what got us to the emergency room and she got admitted. Now, the good news about her being admitted is all the tests that they had to run, it wasn't on an outpatient basis where my sister and I were having to take off work and take her here and take her there. They just kept her. She was there for probably a week. And then the biopsy came back. And I'll never forget that I got the call from her doctor that it was confirmed that she had lung cancer, stage 4, terminal. While Chris and I were up at UCLA when Ryan was having his surgery, he was age 1 and he needed several things. He needed it's not even worth going into because this is not about Ryan, but I'll just never forget. I can see where I was on the sidewalk when the doctor called to confirm. So when she got out of the hospital, we moved her in with us. We, emptied out her apartment and she moved in with us. And 2.5 months later, she was gone. She didn't want to do any type of treatment, which I was really upset with her about because she was only 69, almost 70. And she said, no, I'm good. Like I've lived a good life. Like I'm at peace with this. And I was so mad. I wanted her to fight.
Yeah.
And I had to accept what she wanted. And so with the help of my sisters and hospice, nurses are amazing. Hospice nurses are angels on this earth. We took care of her. And then, we lost her September 12th.
Wow.
So Ryan was 1, Luke was almost 4, and I wasn't pregnant with Kate yet. So I have been a mother without a mother. And so I just hit that 20-year mark and it just feels very significant. I'm grateful that I'm not in the grip of grief like you are in the beginning, but the grief buttons always get pushed. Like we always talk about just cyclical grief, whatever kind of loss that you've experienced. There is cyclical grief. And so I'm feeling the wave, as I call it. And I just think about all the moms in our community who are mothering without mothers, whether they've lost their mothers to illness, accident, what have you, or they've lost mothers due to toxic, abusive relationships, or mothers who are not hands-on because they don't get it.
Yeah.
Mothers who are not hands-on because they're across the country. So I just want to buoy our moms, buoy myself, and talk about this.
Jessica, I'm so moved by your story. Your vulnerability, just being willing to talk about all the things that you felt and experienced in those moments. I know that there are women out there who have had some similar experiences that they can relate to. And, for those moms listening, we feel you and we love you. And as you were talking, one of the things I thought, because I have a friend my best friend, Rosie, who lost her mom to a stroke before her children were born. So this was, again, maybe 22, 23 years ago. And she, would often tell me, I had to find those grandma type figures for my children. I had to find my tribe because I didn't have what all of my other friends had when they had their babies, and their mom came and stayed with them for 6 weeks and helped them, in the very beginning. And then all the little things, just babysitting or just being there or being the ear, just to ask mom, what did you do when, this happened, when your kid's temperature spiked, or, all the little things that you call your mom about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so as you were talking, I was thinking, this is why you created Brave Together, to help moms out there who don't have the support, who can experience community when their community isn't right there.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. It's Jessica here, and I just want to give a shout out to our top 5K sponsors: Rise Advocacy, GHJ Foundation, Torrance Memorial Medical Center, CMS Creative Management, MRM Education, Harbor Light Financial Strategies, the Patay family, and PPL. We are so grateful to these big sponsors, and we're so excited about our 5K event, which will really be a family event. It's going to be at Palos Verdes High School on Sunday, October 20th. And we also have another in-person event in San Diego, October 19th. It will be wheelchair friendly, it will be family friendly, it will be stroller friendly. For the Palos Verdes High School location, we're going to do laps around the track together. We're going to have a DJ there, a food truck, coffee cart, vendors, authors, and artists. We cannot wait to see you, so please save the date and register today and be a part of the big We Are Brave Together team. And if you are not local to these events, you could do your 5K anywhere in the world. We thank you so much for participating and supporting We Are Brave Together.
And I was just also thinking to Jessica, when you were speaking, I just want to acknowledge that you have been a caregiver for a long time. So
wow.
Even before becoming a mother to your own kiddos, you have experienced, I would offer, extreme caregiving, and so it's interesting how your mother mothered you, then you were mothering your mother, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then you were, mothering your little ones, right? And I just feel like it feels sort of like this full circle moment as you've been talking. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I know that can be a lot. Mm-hmm. And I'm also wondering how much that prepared you as well for the extreme caregiving as a biological mother to your babies, and being introduced to hospital systems, right? So that's one of the things that just really struck me as you were telling your story. And thank you so much for sharing it so vulnerably, as you always do. I am absolutely going to call my mom as soon as we finish recording here. She is across the country, but we have cell phones and FaceTime and everything else. And the other thing I was going to say is that I don't know if this was the case for you, Jessica and Zoe, but the second that I became a mother, I was like, whoosh, like literally, I was like, okay, now I have all this respect and admiration for my own mother. Like, how did she do this 5 times? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so all I
Yes.
wanted was my mommy.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by that. I just wanted my mommy to be with me all the time. So that's real.
Thank you. I did not even bring Kleenex with me into the podcast closet. So I just didn't, I've been able to talk about it without tears, for so long. But yeah, I guess I'm just tender again. So thank you both so much. I want to add to that 4 months after my mom passed away, Chris's mom, who was like the best mother-in-law and the best grandma, Luke got her for 8 years. She was diagnosed with lung cancer. So 4 months after I lost my mom, Sally was diagnosed with lung cancer and she never smoked. So, I mean, I'll never forget that month that she was diagnosed. Chris and I were both in such a funk. Like, I cannot believe we have to go through this again. Thankfully, we had her for 3.5 years, I think. Yeah, 3.5 years. But that was a roller coaster. She's good. She's not good. Oh no, now it's gone to her brain. We had more time. She had more time to make more memories with us, with Steve, my father-in-law, and have some good trips with grandchildren. But she was like the ideal hands-on grandma, like very hands-on. So yeah, life is just anyways.
That's a lot of loss. And, I'm thinking about women out there listening and whether, a mom has lost her mother to death or some other way. I'd like to talk about that experience because, as I listen to you talk and I'm thinking about talking about, my little losses with my mother, they feel so insignificant to not having a mother at all. Just like you said, Susanna, we have cell phones, right? We can constantly be connected to our people, even if they don't live close. And my mother lives 3,000 miles away in Maryland. I'm in California. And she has, the entire time that I've had children. And she's been a wonderful grandmother when she can be. She came when I had my children and she stayed and she's helped throughout the time. But 10 years ago, my father passed away. And when he died, and my parents, they were high school sweethearts. They'd been together since they were 16 years old and married for, I can't do the math, 40 years, whatever, at the time that my dad died. And when my dad died, we lost my mom too. She literally she was a shell of a person for a number of years. She had zero, he was her whole entire life. She was a stay-at-home mom. And then when we grew up, my dad's a doctor and he's a psychiatrist. Later in his life, he used to be a ER physician. She managed his practices, and they just lived life together, complete partnership. And when he was gone, her life just crumbled. And she did not know how to function for a number of years. And even when she came and visited, she would kind of just sit there like an empty person. And I lost both my father and my mother, when my dad died. And that was really, really difficult because I needed her. I was in deep end parenting. My kids were, I think they were 1, 7, 9, and 11. And I just lost her. And so I remember grieving the loss of my mom, even I won't say more, but as much as the loss of my father. And over the years, slowly as she's, it's been 10 years, she's come back, but not ever the same way that she was before because life changes and distance created and just things happen. And I remember during that time, I had to really lean on my friends. I had to do what I said, my friend did, is really create that support system outside of my mom, which was hard when she was still right there, but not really.
Oh, that must have felt like a double whammy, Zoe.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it's reminding me, to have so much compassion for all those moms out there who yes, have a different relationship with their mom, maybe now or maybe always, or maybe it's been sort of complicated. Or I do have a dear, dear friend whose mother is going through dementia and Alzheimer's. And so it's a different kind of loss too, because physically
they're there.
They're there, and she's with her mom every couple of months. And it's just been really hard. She just posted something on Instagram and she's like, my mother is smiling and that's what I want to think about today. This is what is bringing me joy today. I think about, the ouchie situations where there has been, an untethering of a relationship with a mother. And I am another, I would love to piggyback on what Zoe was saying, like in terms of you, founding this beautiful community of moms for us to have this sort of extra support and, village around us. I feel like I have leaned into it so much because of, my parents are beautiful and amazing human beings. They are also across the country. And when Arizona was born, I'm in Los Angeles also. They lived in Orange County. So I was ecstatic. You know what I mean? And for the first couple of years of Arizona's life, we would drive down to Orange County whenever I needed help, and not even whenever I needed help. It was just being with my parents and really just being with my mom. And she was a professor at Cal Poly Pomona at the time. And so I would drive Arizona out there. It's such a beautiful campus to see the horses, and then I remember my mom saying, I've accepted a position in Ohio. And I was like, why? Like, who leaves Southern California to go to Ohio? You know what I mean? Listen, she is almost 75. She has like 20 years left in her in terms of her career. She is a go-getter. She is just top in her field, professor of musicology, author, published, speaker, all of these amazing things. And she's just like, well, I'm trying to keep getting to the next level. And how could you begrudge her that? She raised 5 of us, then she got her PhD. Okay.
Wow.
So, but all I heard was Ohio. Like, what do you mean Ohio? So, listen, it's like every time I go out there to Ohio to visit my parents, it is an intentional visit. I'm there for, 4 days straight, 5 days straight. So in a way, it's really delicious in that I get to spend morning, noon, and night with my parents, as opposed to an afternoon here, a day there, a lunch here, or whatever. But, listen, even now at the ripe old age of 50, like whenever there is an issue or something going on, my first instinct is like, I just need my mommy, So that's the compassion that I have for you, Jessica, and for all those out there who can't reach out, can't pick up the phone. It's not available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want anyone out there who's listening, who is hearing this wherever you are in the spectrum of mother loss, that you can find support with your friends, with us, and We Are Brave. I'm just so grateful that I've always had women in my life. And thankfully I've had, older women too, that have come through, that have been like mentors. And, and definitely I have some friends, mothers who I would love to rent. I joke about that. I'm like, can I rent your mother? Can I just rent your mother for the day? I just love your mom, and it's still a very real loss. So I think today's episode is really about just compassion. I don't think we're, necessarily here like, this is what you can do and this is what you should do. I think calling upon the support of community, women who are older, women who can be like organic mentors, is really a wonderful way to sort of supplement, that need for mothering. And I think that helps. And it's so funny. I never said, oh, I was a caregiver to my mom. I don't think I've ever said that. I never realized, I was a caregiver before I was a caregiver to Ryan. And I also never really thought about that. That's subconsciously also part of the origin story, the genesis of We Are Brave Together. I love aha moments. Thank you for that.
That's powerful. And as you were talking, what came to my mind was that you can parent well, even amidst grief. The grief is going to be there, and the goal isn't to get through the grief or to stop grieving. It's to recognize that we can have moments of joy. We can have connection. We can parent well, even when we're grieving.
Well said. Well said. Thank you. Well, anything else that comes to mind about mothering without mothers and mother hunger, as I call it?
I would say that every situation is an opportunity for us to lean into what our needs are, what our unmet needs may be, looking for or needing that sort of mothering, nurturing, cherishing energy. I look for that. Of course, I have that in my mother. And because we are, physically apart, I look for that energy in my girlfriends, in healthcare providers. Like, I refuse to go to a doctor that does not have a warm and fuzzy bedside. I refuse, because there are too many choices in this world.
Right.
And so I just know that I need to be just cherished and nurtured, and so I seek that out. And I believe that what we seek is also seeking us in return. So I would just offer that, this is an opportunity to be able to look a little deeper into ourselves and our needs.
I like that.
That's beautiful.
Also, I just think for anyone who's listening, if this is bringing up the feels, grab a journal. Just grab a journal and just get it all out, all your thoughts, all your feelings. Whatever this brings up for you, I just encourage you to write it out, not as an assignment, but just as a release, an exhale. And maybe after we're done recording, I'm going to do the same, because my emotions are coming up. So I will take my own advice.
Do you ever write to your mother, Jessica?
It's been a long time, but maybe I will.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we can wrap this up. And I just thank you so much for letting me share my tender heart and my story. And all you moms out there, we see you and we love you. Thanks so much for listening today. Do us a favor and leave us a review and a rating so that this podcast can get into the ears and the hearts of more and more moms. Did you know that Brave Together Parenting Podcast is an extension of our nonprofit organization, We Are Brave Together? We Are Brave Together serves an international community of caregiving moms, offering support groups that are virtual and in-person, educational resources, and low-cost weekend retreats. And we have published our first anthology of caregiving stories entitled Becoming Brave Together, Heroic, Extraordinary Caregiving Stories from Mothers Hidden in Plain Sight. It will encourage and validate every parent caregiver. To join us today, go to wearebravetogether.org. Our support and sisterhood awaits you. Brave Together Parenting Podcast is for entertainment and education purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional care and should not be relied on for medical or mental health advice. The use of any content on our podcasts, links, show notes, or on our website is to be done at your own personal risk. Please seek out a professional to assess your own medical or mental health concerns, because we are all beautifully complex and the content of this podcast is for a broad audience.